All right, so it is going to be the Druid coming out here. Druid versus Warrior. And, I mean, how do you feel this matchup should look? I mean, when we look here at StrifeCro's Druid deck, you know, is it something that you're really hoping you have? I mean, all you can really do is it's just going to be a race, it looks like, because there's not taunts. It's not like he's sitting in this deck with tons and tons and tons of taunts. So is it really just going to be a race? Who gets their kind of better combo first? I mean, just kind of coming down to whether or not we can see like the Force of Nature Savage Roars come out, things like that.
Oh, that's a turn one Yeti. You can see that coming down. So that could be a big point in this race. But again, Fairy Dragon's especially effective typically versus a deck like Druid because you're not going to be able to Wrath it early on. Yep. So it takes out one of the key removal spells. But this is the bread and butter of Druid right here.
This is like you almost always win.
This is tough to deal with. So Trump sort of in a position where he's just got to jam minions on the board and kind of hope things work out for him in the end. And as you were touching on, there's a lack of taunts in StrifeCro's Druid deck. Druid of the Claw and Cenarius are really all he has. Outside of that, his deck is based purely on aggression. So if he's able to take a really aggressive stance against this deck, it ends up a lot in his favor. But if he fails to do that, you're going to see Trump end up with a massive advantage between things like these 4-counter elites and these weapons.
Well, in the Bloodsail Raider, very nice with that Fiery War Axe because you're getting a cheap minion down with 5/3. So I mean, I assume he's going to just play that out there. I don't know. I mean, there's lots of ways he could clear this if he actually wants to clear this, but I don't really see him doing that.
Yeah.
He could just go Corcoran Elite and go to the face as well. And I mean, he has the second Fiery War Axe to activate the Battle Cry from a Bloodsail Raider, so there's no huge rush to get that down or anything like that. A lot of different ways he could play this. Do you really think it's worth clearing? I don't really see it at any point.
No, I don't see clearing. It's certainly a consideration of his because he wants to think about things like Defender of Argus and he wants to think about things like Mark of Nature.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Mark of the Wild. But
we know they're not in here.
Right. Trump doesn't know that,
of course.
So he's going to consider his options. But I think at the end of the day, with a deck like this, you've really got to stick to your guns and just keep attacking your opponent's face. And it feels really weird because you give your opponent so many opportunities to take advantage through that. But you're just hoping that they draw the wrong portion of their deck and you're able to fight through it.
Well, and in this situation, it's doubly right because he doesn't have any of those things to draw, really. There's no taunt, there's no Argus, there's nothing like that that's going to come out and ruin his day. Now, he does have some nice development here in his hand. He can obviously pick up quite a lot. And now I think he's going to play that Bloodsail Raider, and he is. And so it's really, really nice. He's got that 5/3 out. And he doesn't really have a nice way to kill it.
StrifeCro cannot play a single card this turn.
Yeah, there's no way to kill it. You can't. I mean, what do? You can punch it with your face, but do you really want to? He's going to punch it with his face.
I think he's got to. If he doesn't, he's going to take too much damage from it, I think.
I mean, that's so rough, though. Now he's at 18 HP. And we have Heroic Strike plus Corcoran Elite here. That already is 11 damage. That puts him at 7 HP.
This is a tough spot.
He's already going to be at 7 HP, man. And his next couple turns are going to be very nice, though. He has, the Argent Commanders. He can obviously heal up with his 7-drop with his Ancient Allure. So he is going to have some strong next couple turns. But the potential for damage here is getting very scary. I mean, the Corcoran Elite, he could just drop that. Do you think you save the Heroic Strike just for lethal, or do you just go for it now?
It's a tough way to put it either way, honestly, because if you don't use it now, there's a potential you're talking about. But again, it's something he wants to be thinking about.
Yeah.
But the other thing he's thinking about is how all of his damage ends up lining up. Even if he fails on the damage front, he has this Brawl to recover from it. Because Druid, the way it wins is through these big, powerful, efficient minions. So when your opponent's built to that point, on the back of this Brawl, he's looking to buy 1 or 2 extra turns to draw the last couple of points of damage he needs. So I think his hand's a little bit clunky right now because he only has a choice between a couple of spells. But I like saving the Heroic Strike just in case you need it next turn. I probably would save the weapon as well. I think you just Corcoran Elite, attack the face and armor up here.
Okay. I mean, definitely very reasonable. We know it's probably just going to die to a charge.
To that same effect, though, he needs to be thinking about the fact that he's got 2 Arcanite Reapers left, and he's got the Gorehowl, so he wants to be using these weapons as well.
Yeah. I mean, very likely just going to use the Argent Commander here. I don't really see another good play. I mean, you could Wild Growth. I mean, you could Force Nature theoretically and clear it that way, but why not just use the Argent Commander? It seems pretty straightforward. He's going to go for that, and that really is kind of his only play. We have to remember now, next turn he's going to have 16 HP. He's definitely going to use the heal up next turn. I would be shocked if he didn't. So, effectively 16 HP that we have to see killed off, and really not a very good draw with that Ironbeak Owl here. It doesn't help him out at all. Do you just drop your minions at this point and just armor up? I mean, you could just put the Frothing Berserker, the Ironbeak Owl, and then armor up. But, I mean, it's not a great turn, but look at your alternatives. You don't really want to just randomly throw out the Heroic Strike. And the Brawl is no use really here.
Yeah, he needs this Brawl to be effective, but in order for it to be effective, there needs to be weaker minions on the board.
Yeah.
So what he's weighing through his turn right now is how much more valuable is it to play these minions versus how valuable it is to sacrifice some of my life total and try to get a lot more value from this Brawl. And I think his goal is going to be to try to lightning rod some sort of effect from his opponent, so he can't play Ancient of Lore.
Okay.
And that's going to be indicated by the fact he's going to use this Heroic Strike in his 4-2, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So now he ends up with a 3-4 minion versus a 2-1. If his opponent doesn't have Spike here, he's in pretty bad shape, I think, all things considered, even if he does drop something like Ancient of Lore, because he's got to be concerned with how Trump's going to counterattack here. And the other thing to note is that we saw Mortal Strike last game. StrifeCro needs to be mindful of the fact that it deals 6 damage when Trump's at 12 or less life. So it just adds even more pressure to StrifeCro to be mindful of everything that's happening in this game, despite all the chaos that's going on around him. So this is really his only play, and this Harv's going nowhere but the face. But now if you see Trump draw like a weapon or something, oh my gosh, that is unlucky.
That is brutal, man. I think he might. Do you think he's gonna Brawl here?
I don't. I think you drop both owls and armor up and pass.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah, I guess he's just gonna do that.
He wants to save these owls for taunts. So that's what he's thinking about right now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he just doesn't know there's no taunts.
Right.
And I mean, we could see him. He's probably just going to trade the 5-5 into the 3-4, but at the same time, he actually doesn't have to. He could even just go face. I mean, do you feel like he should trade here? Do you think he just trade and maybe just drop the Cairn, armor up kind of thing?
This is a really tough spot to be in because I think Force of Nature is not that bad of a play, but at the same time, you want to save your Force of Nature because you want to push through damage on your opponent. So sensibly, I think the only play is to put your 5-5 into this.
Yeah,
into
and
this
then just Cairn and armor up.
But, you know, sort of true to StrifeCro style, he's going to take his time and wait for it, and he wants to fight hard for this board position. So he doesn't want to sacrifice too much on his minion, but he hasn't seen Brawl yet from Trump either. I honestly, I wouldn't be anticipating Brawl if I was in StrifeCro's spot. So this is like the most sensible play, because he also gets a hero power here, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but that 1 extra life a couple turns from now could end up mattering a lot. As you saw in the last game, Trump had exact lethal. So Brawl is not a very good spot right here, but he has Owl to go with it, so it ends up being okay. So if he wins this Brawl...
Do you double Owl here, or do you just... Okay.
No, I think you just single Owl. Oh my gosh, so close to winning the Brawl, too.
5-2 comes out. That's not so bad.
But now StrifeCro is in a position... I actually would like to see Trump not armor up here. And the reason I want to see him not armor up is to threaten the idea of Mortal Strikes. Like, think about the armor up for a long time, and then not armor up. Yeah. And then is StrifeCro reluctant to put him to 12?
Yeah.
And I think the answer a lot of times is yes, because if it's double Mortal Strike and then something like a Fiery War Axe, I'm sorry, something like a Heroic Strike, or even like a Bluegill Warrior or something weird, you're looking at lethal from the other end. But now he's in this spot where it's like he's not afraid to deal any damage. So I'd be extremely surprised if he didn't play Black Knight here.
Yeah.
And then he's looking at lethal next turn. So Trump really on the ropes now, and not a position I think you want to be in if you're him.
Okay, so he's going to play the big winner as well, which makes a lot of sense. And Trump honestly has just not drawn into weapons this game.
Right.
I mean, you know, he hasn't drawn
His
either
big
his Arcanite Reapers. Anyway. He hasn't drawn his upgrade. He hasn't drawn his Gore Howl. And at this point, it's pretty much lights out. You know, he can clear something with the Argent Commander. He can drop the Dread Corsair, but I feel like he's so on the back foot that it's almost impossible to come back. He can clear it. He can get that taunt down, but is it really going to save him? I mean, he's going to need some incredible draws here to be able to come back from this position, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. He's looking at 10 points. StrifeCro's looking at a potential 10 points of damage to force through next turn via his Force of Nature.
Yep.
And you have to drop this Dread Corsair because you're dead to everything otherwise. But this is sort of the part where you start to see aggro fall apart is when they have to attack their opponent's minions instead of their opponent's life total when they're at 15. So, this Wrath's going to end the game.
Yep,
so
that's it.
I don't think that this Wrath makes too much difference in the long run, but here it seals the deal, so you can't be unhappy to draw it. So game 4 is going to go over to StrifeCro now. This series is tied up 2-2, and StrifeCro's in his comfort zone. Druid is one of the decks that he is known for playing and innovating. And going into the final match, though, something really interesting to note is that Trump now has this Violet Teacher Shaman deck